Hello and welcome to Small Business Snippets, the podcast from smallbusiness.co.uk. I'm your host, Anna Jordan. Today we have Merlin Griffiths, pub owner, mixologist and bartender on Channel 4's First Dates. Merlin grew up in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, and he used to own the Priory Tavern in northwest London with his wife Lucille. These days he runs Maltsters Country Inn located in Badby. Cocktails are a staple speciality on Merlin's menus as he's been a bartender and mixologist for 20 years. He first appeared as the bartender on First Dates in 2013, and the show is currently on its 14th series. We'll be finding out a bit more about him, as well as the challenges facing the hospitality industry. Hi, Merlin.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Of course, I'm doing very well, thank you. How about you?
Yeah. All things considered, well, I think. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Now, many of our listeners would recognise you as the man behind the bar on First Dates. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got into the hospitality industry and then onto the show.
Yeah, hospitality. I mean, what a trade to be in, honestly. It's one of those things, isn't it? Do you plan to go into hospitality? Some people do. They really do. I don't think I did. I was quite young when I first started working as what we called a barback up in the West End of London in Soho. And I think I just sort of lucked out getting into the right bar at the right time. This was just as that cocktail renaissance was sort of starting to happen in the mid-90s.
Right.
Yeah. For me, I mean, it was a job. It was one of my first jobs in London, and so I was just happy to have one. Really, you'd work all hours, all days, do just about anything necessary. And it wasn't probably until about 5 or 6 years in that you start going, I'm still doing this. This is more than just a stopgap of a job, isn't it? Yeah, I think this is now officially a career. And yeah, that's where it's led to now via, a good stint working for 5-star hotels out in India for Taj Hotels. I was living in Bangalore for a good while. From there, I was headhunted into Bacardi Global as one of their global ambassadors for Bombay Sapphire Gin and Oxley Gin at the time. That was a great experience, almost 4 years bouncing around the world, teaching people how to make martinis. And from there into pub ownership, actually, at the point where we suddenly thought, my partner Lucille and I, we sort of have been looking at this, and especially on my travels, you see, I've been in and out of America loads. I had this idea that a good American neighborhood bar, you can still get a really well-made Cosmo or margarita or something, as well as a decent draft beer. And I sort of had this idea that why can't you do the same in a sort of a British pub setting? You know, the cocktail side of things, the drink side of things shouldn't really be mutually exclusive. Cocktails and car scales, quite literally. And so that's sort of where we started, cocktails and car scales, and no screens and no machines, because I decided there were enough TVs in pubs at the time as well. Yeah. I thought pubs should be sociable. And so that's what it led to that. And it was while doing that, there was a job advertisement as well it was Channel 4. We're looking for a bartender. It was just literally advertised as a job. And I was like, okay, I think I can pull out a small amount of time to have a go at that too. And I was lucky enough to land it. And it's a fantastic role that I really, really enjoy.
Nice. Just out of curiosity, how do you get headhunted as a barman? What kind of things are they looking for and who approaches you?
Do you know, it's an odd one, you see, because the social media side of this stuff, right? You go online these days and you can find loads of really, really good bartenders up and down the country and all around the world. There's a really developed network nowadays. But this is now, we're going back, 10 years. It wasn't as developed as we know it now. And I think it was largely, for me, moving into the job at First Dates, for instance, I was very lucky thanks to the Bacardi Global support. I'd done a whole bunch of videos and online training bits and bobs for them at the time. So if you'd have literally just searched, find me a cocktail bartender, there were about 3 pages of me making Negronis and dry martinis and Tom Collinses and so on and so forth. So really, I think, a certain amount of luck at the time. These days, you really have to work hard for it, don't you?
Yeah. I imagine it's not just the showy throwing bottles over your shoulder and setting things on fire and what have you.
No, but that's also fun. I'll be honest with you, I was never much of a flair bartender. For me, it always has been about customers and customer service. Mm-hmm. That's the real key for me. It's a people business, and I've always said that. Yeah. That's the clue's in the name. Hospitality. We're hospitable, and that's genuinely what we get up to here. So it's not about how well can you mix a martini or how well you can keep your car scale. All of that's important. At the same time, though, what's really important is how you deal with people. I don't like to use the word customers. Guests is far better.
Yeah.
You know, it's how you deal with your guests and who become friends as well, your local community, especially in the pub game.
There's loads to think about when it comes to running a pub. When you took on Maltsters, it was in pretty bad shape. How did you turn it around without blowing your budget?
Slowly but surely, you divide the task up piecemeal. Otherwise, these places can become. Anyone who's taken an old pub, an old tumble down pub, what I call nil premium sites. Anyone who's done that journey knows what I'm talking about when you have to divide up the task, because otherwise it can become overwhelming unless you've got unlimited budgets and contractors to throw at it all in one big hit, which, let's face it, most of us don't. Most of the operators I know and small business level, we tend to sort of bootstrap our way up. And so really, first things first, so I'm going, right, well, obviously I need to get the kitchen clean, functional, hygienic, so on. So you do that, and we need a basic bar and trade area. So they're the first two things you look at. Then we start looking at upgrading the function room. Then we start looking at doing the gardens. Then we can start looking at doing any of the letting rooms that are available here and things like that. And slowly but surely, now we're only just over 3 years into our journey here, so there's still lots more to do, but you just take it one chunk at a time and make it manageable.
And one of the things I noticed when I was looking around was that the TripAdvisor reviews before you took it on were also not great, tended to be 1 stars. How do you recover from these kind of bad TripAdvisor reviews or other platforms that are similar?
I don't know, in all honesty, Anna. I'm one of those operators that I don't really keep an eye on that side of it. I'd rather keep my eyes on the people that are coming and the customers that I do have. I think it's as a small business, it's a whole nother job managing online, and especially getting involved in managing reviews. Some people do very, very well at it. My hat goes off to them. I've decided that I think my efforts are better placed elsewhere in the business, I think, in looking after those people that I can see in front of me and those people that phone me here to make bookings.
Would you think it would be worth hiring a separate person altogether to deal with that side of things?
If you can afford it. I don't know if I can. To be honest, you know, and yeah, seriously. I mean, that's what sort of segues neatly to the work I've been doing with Smart Energy as well, with this guide and advice. I mean, you know, budgets are tighter than ever at the moment. Crikey.
I know that you've been quite vocal on Twitter about government measures around handling the hospitality industry during the coronavirus pandemic. What do you think of the action being taken, and what measures would you like to see?
Yeah, I see. Honestly, I don't think it's my place to say yay or nay. It's too easy to bash any sort of point of view that people might have at the moment, or any approaches that are being taken. Realistically, as a small business owner, if I'm talking honestly, so much of it is out of our control, and so much of it is out of my control at the end of the day, whether I agree with things or not. And in all honesty, what I've really spent since March and up till now doing is looking at what I can control. Because it's so easy to feel helpless in these situations. It really is, you know, when you're faced with ever higher hurdles to jump, ever more onerous bits of legislation to go through. Right. But, you know, with the help of peers as well, I stay in touch with a large network of publicans these days. You know, one of our groups, we've got about 250 of us chatting away, and it's lovely to be able to bounce ideas off each other and get advice about ways of doing things. And this helps you feel more in control, honestly, and that's really useful, because otherwise it's very easy to get quite down about the whole thing, angry and shouty, or just generally depressed and withdrawn. And yeah, it's tough. I'm not going to say it's easy, but nonetheless, by approaching this with the idea of what can I control, it certainly makes you feel a little bit better.
Absolutely. Because ordinarily, I would be asking you about what small improvements hospitality businesses can make to improve and to grow. But of course, it's such a tough situation. So instead, what advice do you have for these business owners to get through this time, both professionally and personally?
Yeah, exactly. I'll start with the personal one. You know, honestly, for me, do one non-work activity that brings you joy at least once a week. Right. Honestly, it really does feel like we're hardwired to work 24/7, but it is important to try and do that one thing that's just for you. However much you convince yourself there isn't the time. I cycle. That's my thing. I'll take a couple of hours each week and go for a long ride. I know. I'm really sorry. I'm one of those weirdos who dresses up in Lycra.
Oh no, I do the same. I love it. I'm a keen cyclist myself, so no judgment here at all.
There we go. I don't know what age you turn into. What do they call it? A mammal?
I think you've got some time yet.
Good, thank you. But nonetheless, one of those guys. I've got my Liger and my helmet, and I get out there and I forget about everything else and just focus on being outdoors. But honestly, seriously, when I say just do this one thing that brings you joy, even really if that's something as simple as hauling yourself down to the local park, right, sitting on a bench in some peace and quiet with a cup of tea or coffee and reading a book or doing the crossword, whatever it takes, just to try and remove yourself for a moment, it's incredibly important. I think whether people realize it or not, there's this underlying bubbling stress and tension, and especially even more so as a small business operator these days. The survey work that we've done here as well, 69% said changes in their financial situation has led to a negative impact on their mental health. So all of that needs to be dealt with somehow. It really does before it bubbles over. You can't hold it in. Talk to people as well. Utilize your peer networks. Really, friends are really wonderful if you've got a good friend that will listen. But sometimes there are sector-specific things and business owner-specific things. So it does help to talk to other people in the same situation, the same boat. So try and get involved in some of the groups that are out there. Sometimes maybe you just need to vent a little bit and get it off your chest.
Yeah, I think as a business owner, sometimes you're inclined to put other people, namely your employees, first.
Yeah, always. Employees, they're like a little family. Honestly, they're extended family. It's any small business person knows that. They're the biggest asset you have in your business, your team, your staff, your people. Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to look after them. I mean, March, that was the first thing that stressed us. What are we going to do with our staff? We need to make sure they're looked after.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really. Because, like many of us, we looked at our cash flow and go, crikey, well, it's going to be a while before we get the furlough payments in to pay them. So how do we go about this, without also at the same time bankrupting the business? Because there's the other side of this. You look at this as a business owner going, it's not only about looking after staff. The true way to look after my staff is to make sure that they've got jobs to come back to as well. And so, we had some very frank and honest discussions with our staff, and they were absolutely brilliant and worked with us and completely understood. I think we're incredibly lucky to have the team that we do. Really are. I love them all to bits.
And we've seen on the site that with the increased rate of redundancies, more and more people are interested in starting their own business. What would you say to somebody who wants to start a hospitality business? It's
hard work, but go for it. Honestly. Yeah, put in the hours and you get the rewards, quite frankly. It's a great trade to be in. I think it's an absolutely great trade. As I say, I've been doing 25 years now. I've been behind bars or involved in hospitality in one way, shape or form, and 10 of those as a landlord. It is absolutely tremendous to do. So yeah, I'd say hats off to them, full credit. Yeah, do it. In this country, it's 99. ONS stats, 99.6% of businesses in this country, British businesses, are classed as small to medium businesses.
Most are micro businesses too. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of those are micro. You're talking so best part of 6 million. It's like I'm always reminded that. It was Napoleon quote, wasn't it? Who said Britain is a nation of shopkeepers.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that's changed. The small business is what makes this country tick. Absolutely does. It's so incredibly important. Absolutely important. And it's not just the standard top line stuff we hear about, jobs and the economy and so on. This is families, livelihoods, children, the socio-economic sort of impact here, at a macro level is really far reaching. It's incredibly important. But it's really easy to sort of get the view these days that Britain's dominated by big business, because of course they've got the marketing budgets and that's why you hear about them. But really, as you can see from those statistics, 99%, it's small to medium. All hail the little guys. I'm gonna head back to you said, because we started this all with advice as well.
Yes.
For small business owners. So let's have a look. What else have we been recommending to people? Controlling controllables is what I wanted to touch on. Rent. Don't know. This is a really big one, but you've got to open conversations with your landlord, haven't you, at the moment?
Absolutely.
However they go. But you still have, and trust me, it's tough to keep calm, but you have to keep calm and do that with a level head. What else can you control? Yeah, again, so this is staff, you need to be controlling that. This is looking after them in the best ways possible. And now if you're doing this alongside change in your business as well, hopefully maybe you can find other ways to pick up some hours for staff. If you've been exploring the possibilities to go, normally I serve a bit of food or a bit of drink, somebody, well, now you start looking at your site going, I've got a licensed A3 space. It's a commercial site. What else can I do with it? And this hopefully brings out new workflows, new ways of operating, whether that's local groceries, setting up yourself up as a sub postmaster. You might be doing local deliveries, hot takeaway, cold takeaway. There's so many different bits and bobs going on here. There's operators even doing full meals to cook at home from their kitchens, box meals being sent out. There are so many different things, but these are good ways of shoring up your business so you can provide the hours for your staff. And then you start looking at utilities, get a handle on utilities, honestly, because they're an important part of what you do. And this is where you get into this idea of marginal gains.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a big fan. Marginal gains are a great thing. It's a long tail effect, because if you do enough of them, they actually start adding up to be a significant gain for your business.
If people want to make those marginal gains, how would they go about that?
One of the clearest, easy wins, Anna, contact your energy supplier, see if you can get a smart meter. I think it's a really good, sensible thing to do. Up-to-date information on how your business is running and how much things are costing is essential now more than ever. This is more than just turning lights off. You could start controlling your stock levels, your exposure. In that sort of sense, you tighten up your menus to focus on the crowd pleasers and the profitable dishes and so on. And likewise, like I say, I want to know how much stuff costs to run now. I really do. I've got a sneaking suspicion I'm going to be able to save a fortune on extra kitchen extracts and some of the electrical hardware in the kitchen, especially. I'm interested to look at when my chef turns this on, when he turns it off, and is it actually necessary at certain points? Because if I can save maybe 8 to 12 hours worth of electric a day, and trust me, you're talking high kilowatt devices here, aren't you? If anyone's running an electric pizza oven, for instance, out there, they know this is a 12 kilowatt device, right? Yeah, this isn't small beans we're talking about anymore. And so these are ways of controlling what you can and knowing that you've trimmed the fat, made your business lean. All those little, and these all tend to be, tend to be little things that are going on. But they also tend to be in normal trade times. You tend to sort of put these things on a back burner. They go, I must have a look at that one point, or they go up on a whiteboard in the office or a post-it note somewhere, or a to-do list or what have you. And you sort of eventually get around to them. Now is the time to dive into all of that stuff and start getting a really good handle on what you do and the way you work and being prepared to change as well. We all have to adjust.
Yeah, it's amazing what some small business owners have done, and they're adding in new kinds of services. And
yeah, it's fantastic. On the rural side of things, I'm loving the fact that loads of rural pubs, for instance, are reinstating lost village services like post offices and shops.
Absolutely.
I think that's a fantastic thing, because if you look at them as standalone things, I can see why they're largely closed in a lot of small villages, because it's very difficult to make a profit as a small village shop, given the cost of renting a building and so on and so forth these days. But now if you're already doing that as a pub and you've got the space to expand to a retail offering, well, it's a give and win, and you're engaging with your community now in new ways by restoring these services. This is fantastic. Let's not forget, a lot of rural communities as well have people who will be shielding in certain ways, or just sort of largely keeping out of society's way. So a chance for them to literally just be able to walk down to the end of the street and get a bottle of milk or something without having to go into town is huge for them. Absolutely huge.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Do you know what? I'll tell you what I will add. I think this is good. This is why I say really plug into these hospitality networks, the industry networks, take advice where you can get it. Speak to your accountant. If you don't have an accountant, take free financial advice from your bank. They will always be happy to give it. But wherever you can take that advice, the more people you speak to, the more you suddenly realize you're not alone in all this. And there are ways still to sort of keep your glass looking half full, even though it may look half empty, if I can be so frank. But we are, as I say, creative, resilient, adaptable. This is hospitality. Challenges is something we routinely rise to and something we're very good at overcoming in this business.
Well, that seems like the ideal note to wrap up. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Merlin.
Thank you ever so much for having me, Anna. Thank you.
You can watch Merlin in First Dates on Channel 4's catch-up service, All 4. You can also visit smallbusiness.co.uk for more guidance on COVID-19 measures and running your hospitality business. Remember to like us on Facebook at Small Business Experts and follow us on Twitter at Small Business UK, all lowercase. Until next time, thank you for listening.